Hi friends, my name is Hannah, and on my channel here I like to talk about just what I'm learning and thinking about while I'm learning how to sustainably enjoy life as a disabled person, as a differently abled person, as a person in between in seasons of my life. And today I wanted to just talk a little bit about meaning making, something I've been thinking about. Because meaning, when, for me, when I was younger, meaning making, finding meaning, it was like my meaning was survival. But when you're not in a survival situation anymore, like I am now, because I live with my boyfriend and it's a safe situation, I feel very like I don't have to compromise or harm myself in order to maintain my living situation and access to resources. Um, and because my income is very harm reduced, I take care of dogs here and there. Because of that, um, it's like I'm in a stage where I'm learning how to, for the first time of my life, how to deepen my connection to meaning, to have a meaningful everyday life. And I think it also ties into the fact that I am like stable in my life. Like I'm 33. For most of my life, I've moved at least every year, sometimes multiple times per year. Um, and I've lived here in this apartment for a year now. And I could see myself living here for like 5 years, because it is just like a safe haven, safe place to land, to rebuild, to catch my breath, to process the past, to find a different sense of meaning, to find, this self discovery of like what are the terms and conditions and narratives I use to figure out what meaning means to me, my thoughts and feelings when I'm outside of that bubble of survival. And something that I notice a lot is that I do have this sense of loneliness, of like deep, like wanting to be a part of teamwork, wanting to feel like there's people online or in person, though online is probably more accessible for me at this point. But just that sense of like having ongoing relationships that are based on just common humanity and like things that I enjoy. Like that's something that I loved about during doing work exchanges on farms, was that sense of community and teamwork. Like cooking, group meals, just working on projects um, that I really liked together, and that, but I'm like, okay, with how my life is now, in a way where I'm not pushing myself beyond my limits, where I'm still prioritizing rest, right? I'm prioritizing the sense of a haven, this sense of letting my wounds scar before I subject them to like, I like to use the metaphor of, if I have all these open wounds, I'm not going to go swim in a lake, in a dirty lake. Like, if I don't have open wounds, it'll probably be fine. But if I like have all these active wounds, no, I'm not going to go swim in that lake. So in that way, I mean, like, I have to really protect myself from the outside world while I'm developing. I'm in this vulnerable state of developing a new relationship to myself, and hopefully some like new set of skills and new set of just like mental emotional functioning so that I have the capacity for different things of some sort in the future, different ways of making money, different ways of enjoying being alive more, finding meaning. But not to get too distracted, in the meantime, basically, I'm sheltering myself so that I can actually heal. And so without, and I can tell how far is too far by pain. Something that I've realized is like a lot of us, we are either numbed, we've become numbed, or we just have such a high pain tolerance because we've just had to survive, we've had to downplay, we've had to like tell ourselves like that doesn't matter, like, so our perception of like what is overwhelming is really skewed. I've realized that in myself, and I've had to be like, what I want for myself is to actually have this rest and this time to heal. And when it comes to meaning and loneliness, trying to find more meaning in my life in the present and realizing that I feel a lot of this sense of loneliness, I have tried talking with people more in the typical one-on-one style. And I notice I don't really have much of an emotional inclination to engage. And to me, that says that I need something more simple. And I think that it's finding meaning, it's interesting, like finding, listening to our own needs, or listening to our needs, listening to our emotions, using that to discover what our needs are, and finding out like what we actually need in comparison to what we have believed we should need, or is like valid to need, or what is acceptable to others to need, or what is just an option for what our needs are, like and I'm realizing like I think that I need, when it comes to like meaning, yes, like these like deep nurturing relationships with people, like I want that so much. I want that sense of like mutual vindication, like we help in some way, like teamwork, to help vindicate each other for everything, and to create this great hope for the future. And I want that with people. I feel like I have that with my boyfriend to a good degree, not to every degree, because no two people can relate to each other on every front. So there's just some ways that we both can't play that role for the other because we're not the same person. But in order to get to like a really deep trusting relationship, like I'm realizing like I can't force it to happen by just like forcing myself like to like perform communication, like forcing myself to, like I have to do something that's emotionally motivated, instead of being like, okay, I want this deep connection, so I have to talk to someone one-on-one about really deep things and force myself when I don't feel like it, and all of that. Instead, I'm just like, what are the things that the ways of connecting with people, oh wait, sorry, I forgot. I was thinking also that like that type of relationship that I think we all at least secretly crave, that can only be built over time, like after we actually have had proof of knowing someone and proof of circumstances for like how our, like what the actual chemistry is, like how our emotions, our perspectives on the world, our limitations and wounds, like what we can not just intellectually but emotionally have understanding, like in compassion and like not feeling offended because we're like, oh yeah, I'm like that too. Like, that type of compatibility. All of these things can only be discovered about someone when you know them gradually over time. And there's no saying like who that person is going to be for you, or people, who those people are going to be for you, where you can have that type of dynamic. And I think that there is something to be said that some people grow the skills to where they do know themselves so well, and they do know how to talk with people, that they can connect just like off the bat in a really like deep feeling way. But I think that I don't know, I haven't experienced that in my life, so I can't really speak to that. But I think in general, we all have to know each other over time to have like evidence-based proof. Proof that is housed in our emotions instead of proof that is housed in our intellect. And yeah, so I'm just like, okay, how can I, for one, in the meantime, to help my loneliness, how can I try to find that relationship in myself? I know, like, for my parents, for example, like, they have looked for that sense of love and trust in their idea of God. Like, that is what a lot of people go towards. But for me, I want that type of relationship with myself and with the different parts of myself. That's extremely important to me, especially because the parts of myself have been so deeply at war with one another and kind of fragmented against one another. For most of my life, that's been like the main kind of theme, the most prominent theme, although anyways. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out how can I have meaning that is based on like this love with myself in the meantime, not because I'm telling myself like I should, like, there's something wrong or bad with wanting this kind of love with someone else, or that like, because I do have this kind of love with my boyfriend, but just not in every aspect of me, especially when it comes to things that only women can understand. But there's that part of me that is just wanting to experience that with myself in the meantime, like this sense of like extreme nurturance. And a part of that meaning that I'm finding is, just how can I or the question I ask myself to try to find meaning is, how can I try to enjoy things, not have guilt or shame towards things, towards anything? Because I think that those perspectives, guilt and shame, they're both housed in like a punishment kind of paradigm. And I don't think that that's necessary. That's not necessary for me to have understanding for what's in alignment with my values, and what my, and like trying to weigh out the resources and figure out what lack of resources are causing me to act in a way that is against my values, or whatever. All these things that are based on narratives that aren't actually present in my life right now, but it's more like transposed into my mind based on everything that I'm reading online, seeing online, and things I've experienced in the past. But my actual life is very quiet. I think that the way that I use the internet, and it's kind of hard to avoid on the internet, unfortunately, it's like kind of adding narratives into my mind and a sense of context for my life that isn't actually a part of it. So I have a lot more distractions for like bracing for conflict when it was in my past, yeah, but it's like it's not actually my life now. And I got confused with what I was just saying right now. I'm confused of what I was just even talking about. There's some kind of truth there, but I would have to, you know, see it written out and then think more and then construct it into something that is more like tangible to understand what I'm saying. Anyway, um, meaning, meaning for me, I'm just trying to enjoy things without guilt more. Like why can't I just listen to music and cook and dance around in my living room and watch movies all day and feel like happy and nurtured and safe? Like go on walks and like, you know, talking to my boyfriend and practicing my bass and reading and like, but not in a like a checklist, like I must do this in order to be a valid person kind of way. It's not driven by that. It's driven by like enjoyment. But all these things for finding meaning in my current life as a privileged disabled person, a privileged disabled and differently abled woman, these things are a part of like developing that relationship with myself, you know, the way that I relate to my creative energy, to my desires, to like structuring narratives around who I am in relation to my world and what decisions I should make and like what spectrum of emotions I can feel. It's related to yeah, just like my everyday life. Like I do get bored. You know, I do get bored, but I think some of that boredom is because I have so much fear and hesitation with actually like fully sinking into and enjoying these beautiful options that I have in my life. And I'm also disrupted when I have to go off and do house sits and I'm away from home. Like that really messes up my routine, my routines and my self-care and my energy in general. It's like I become very very stiff, very like afraid, like oh, well by that I mean like I immediately just like want to watch TV the whole time, like my mind feels stressed and I just feel very heightened, very hyper aware, like I can't relax and I feel, you know, just restless and it just feels extremely uncomfortable. And it's hard for me to settle into anything. And it's better, like when my boyfriend has come to house sits with me, for example, it's better then when I'm not alone. But, you know, it is hard and that that's definitely a factor in both. I don't know. Yeah, it's difficulty. I'm not saying that it is something I want to stay in my life forever, but I'm saying that it is serving a function in my life right now. Finding a part of me finding meaning in my life right now is earning money in this way I dislike a lot of parts of, so that I can have more hope for my future and more, you know, hopefully stave off my anxiety so that I'm like, okay, like I am still making a little bit of money to contribute to the household, not putting the burden all on my boyfriend. And also thinking that I'm like gradually getting down my debt a little bit at least, like very, very not making much of a dent, but it's a little bit, you know, it's something. And yeah, so that's another aspect of meaning. And part of me is like, you know, I do have faith that as time changes or as time passes, if you can just like hold on, like things can naturally settle. I've definitely experienced that in my life. I've also experienced a lot of pain in the last year while I have been settling um into not working like typical jobs. As I've settled into that in the past year, you know, I've definitely gone through a lot of stages of over productivity and over striving, you know, trying to create this dog walking business that was exhausting and that I didn't actually enjoy, and trying to create just figuring out like trying to create money and I did try a bunch of different jobs for very short times during the past year too, but I have seen gradually over time like my anxiety has changed. Like I don't wake up in the morning feeling sick, feeling ill anymore. So I'm grateful for that, but I'm just trying to let things settle more and have faith that as time passes, things will change for the better. Like there will be a lot of unfortunate phases and experiences, but all I can do is have extreme compassion and love for myself and as much as possible course correct so that, you know, I'm opening myself up to things that feel good and safe to me and protecting myself from experiences that feel exhausting, that I'm under resourced for, that is you know, just painful. And yeah, it's a lot of I don't know, in a weird way that there's a lot of, I know it can't be compared to working a regular job, but there's still a lot of pressure in being disabled and trying to figure out like what is your sense of meaning and how to be like what your loved ones deserve, like how to help bring resources to your loved ones and to look out for you and yourself in case anything bad happens in the future. Like hopefully nothing will, but there's a lot of pressure feeling like, okay, there's this opportunity to rest. There's this free time opportunity, free energy. Like I gotta do something of it. I gotta make something of it that is worthwhile. And it seems kind of foolhardy sometimes to be like, why would I put my thoughts and energy towards reading and towards watching movies and towards like writing all my little thoughts and feelings, and like why would I put my energy towards all of that when it's not resulting in any money? You know, that is a real thing that is still in my head, and this kind of, I think, just air of attitude in pop culture in general, that it's easy to get that type of message. And I'm still not completely decided, but I'm hoping, I mean, I'll see in the future what I think, but I'm hoping the more I'm just like kind of patient and hang on, and I try to have my motivation not be based on survival, but based on like pleasure and enjoyment, and like try to help myself figure out emotionally how to actually feel meaning and like investment in my own sense of happiness and pleasure. And like I'm hoping that if I can learn that, then naturally along the way I will come into contact with people that result in even more partnership, like teamwork, like enjoyable experiences, and they indirectly or directly contributes to me being able to make money. Whether that is because, you know, it just increases my mental health and my energy and my access to knowledge, or it increases like the people that I come into contact with, like it increases my opportunities, maybe like people offer me different opportunities, or I just have, you know, like I think magic can come from being connected with people, but we have to really strive, I think, to know ourselves, accept ourselves, so that the people that we're connecting with are even like in the same ballpark. as what will actually nurture us and be sustainable for us and be actually emotionally meaningful to us as a way of life. And that goes again towards accepting ourselves, because when we can accept ourselves more, when we can like feel our feelings, I'm not saying the right way, but like if I can I don't know, I can't think of the right way to say it right now, but if I can like obey my feelings, or however it can be said, then, and I can like rely and trust on that, then I think that helps discover unidentified needs, like things we hadn't even considered, because it gets us start thinking like, okay, if all these typical narratives that I'm used to hearing or thinking of things in terms of like, if that doesn't fit me, like what does fit me? Like what narratives can I use to understand who I am and what I care about and how I think and feel about the world? And I don't know. Money is all tangled up in this sense of meaning for me, and finding meaning. But there's other things. Money represents the power to choose, to make autonomous decisions. Money represents resources, just access to resources. So there's a lot of different ways that money can happen, though I think it's also an important skill to learn how to make money, like physical money, like numbers in the bank account, because if anything ever happened to my boyfriend, I want to be there for him. Or if something bad happened to him health wise, like I wouldn't want to be able to step in and keep our quality of life, without diminishing mine in a huge way. And thankfully my boyfriend has a good job. He has a great job, where he's valued. He really enjoys what he's learning and what he does, and his team and work culture is really healthy and beautiful. So anyway, yeah, that's just some things I'm thinking about meaning today. Making meaning in our lives, in my life. So yeah, if you have thoughts or feelings on this topic, I would like to hear about it and just see if what other people think on this topic, especially if you're disabled or differently abled, or you have been in the past, but maybe you figured out how to earn money. I don't know. Anyway, okay. Take care. Bye.